Welcome back to Brush Up Your Game. Today, Tristan and I, and Tristan's from A Good Day to Roll Die, both the podcast, YouTube channel, and the blog. And we're going to do some rankums, one per video. This is a series I wanted to put together. It's a chance for us to go through our top galaxy ships. We're actually going to look at all of them and just talk about what do we like, how do we rank them, what's our order, bottom up to top. So come with us, enjoy, hopefully, and here we go. Alrighty, so we are here, and by we I mean Tristan and myself are here to rank the galaxy starships. And this is kind of a neat, straightforward galaxy. There's, 8 named and 5 different generics?
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
And Tristan, we were talking a little bit off camera here, and I think we both said all the generics are pretty bad.
Yeah, 100%. As much as I hate to say that about any Galaxy ship, none of the generics are anything that I would likely play in a competitive match. Um,
Yeah, and it's, you know, the Mirror Universe galaxies certainly have a little bit of intrigue. Same with the Borg getting up to 5 attack dice. And I'd never say that that's a bad situation. But for me, if I'm going to spend the points, I'd rather just spend a tiny bit more points and get a named ability.
I agree. I mean, and the Galaxy already has its drawbacks, right? It doesn't have great maneuverability. It's it's a pretty average stat list right now. And even with the generics being recosted the way they are, um, outside of maybe mission specific play or something, I don't see I don't see a value in them. I mean, and even if you're talking about like Alliance, where you can play a Galaxy class, the Akira is just it's very similar and it's got a better stat line in my opinion. And by the time you can get access to a Galaxy class in Alliance, you've already buffed up your starter ship to a point where it's already better. So
Right, and
that's
at
just
that point, why
kind of where
not
I'm at.
run an Intrepid?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why not just do that? So
Uh, I don't know. Someday we'll rank some generic ships, but yeah, it's they have a mix of stats or not stats, slot upgrades, and you can make some stuff work with them, but yeah, there's uh, it always feels like, at least with the generics, you're sacrificing something. The mirror Borg, or not the mirror, the Fed Borg one, you're sacrificing the battle station action for regenerate, which is not a good trade off. But at least that one has a tech slot.
yeah,
Same thing with the mirror Borg ship, but that one's expensive. And then the Fed ones, you've got the battle stations, but you don't have an attack die. Or worse, you've got a Fed ship that doesn't have a tech slot. And that one just really hurts.
yeah. The lack of a tech slot in any Federation ship is a big mark against it.
Yes.
Um, So the only one, yeah, that I might consider would be the tech slot one at 22 points. If I just wanted to do like a 5 Galaxy ship class fleet or something like that, but that'd be a real, that'd be more just for the fun of it than anything else, I guess.
I get that. That I think with cards like Wing Leader from Alliance, Galaxy, Squadron, I think it is,
Yep.
or there's perhaps some play for the galaxies, but it's a tough trade-off, and you really got to want that thematicism to bring in a generic at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we can kind of cast the generics off to the side here because they're not going to have much play. Um, so for me, my number 8, the lowest of the lows for me, was what I call the token swap Enterprise D. That's the
Really? Okay.
yeah. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. And I know there's utility there, but it's not my go to. Now, I should say I am kind of ranking these in a world where everything could potentially be recosted. I'm looking at the spuds costing, not printed
Sure.
cost, because I think that it's really tough to compare apples and oranges with, some name ships have been recosted, some have not. But I, I'm just not the biggest fan unless you can really take this ship and go super high captain skill and use like a scan to attack early and then have a battle station on defense. But then it's a one defense die ship natively. So how
Yeah.
much do you really want to invest to get those extra dice? So that's why it just falls low for me.
So yeah, I actually have this up quite a bit higher, and I'll save my reasoning later. I think there is some possibility for some builds, and actually one of my upcoming blog posts is about this exact enterprise.
Okay.
Um, but I put another Enterprise D at the bottom, the original 2013 uh, starter set version. And I ran this in the Earth Romulan War event with Fremont recently. So it's not that I won't use it, but having the built-in 360 attack is nice. But I mean, there's dorsal phaser array. There's a couple different versions,
True.
that you can put on there. I think what really hurts it here is the lack of the tech slot.
Mm.
Um, that's just hard on a Federation ship, and there's ways to go around that, but I just don't, feel like it, that I should have to. So for that reason, and for the fact that it's a special ability is something that you can easily acquire through other cards, I kind of put that one at the bottom.
Okay. Fair. All right. So number 7 for me, it's the Assimilation Target Prime, where you spend an action, and
Mhm.
specifically where you spend a drone token. Hey, it looks like we're lining up here.
We're on the same page here, yeah.
And it's not that spending an action to repair one damage to your hull or shields is a terrible action. It's got a nice
Yeah,
slot upgrade division, crew, double weapon, tech, Borg icon. I'm happy with the loadout. I've actually run this ship in some monthly OP missions. But that was really honing in on the abilities that I could get a lot of drone tokens. And so if I happen to have extra drone tokens and had nothing better to do but might still have a shot and didn't want to spend regenerate, I could just spend an action.
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's the cost. I guess for me in general, I'm not huge on Borg ships overall. I don't like the extra cost. You get the extra attack die. It's a little bit faster than the standard Galaxy. There's a 6 red forward, which is kind of nice. But I agree with you. The action, it's nice, but I feel like in the current game environment, to have an action on a ship upgrade or really anywhere, something that requires you to use reaction has to be pretty good because there's just so many activation, combat phase, end phase abilities now,
Right.
that you really have to make kind of knock my socks off to make it worth it, or it has to be a free action. So for that reason, I guess I kind of brought it down a little bit lower. So
Yeah. To me, in most situations, it's not better than evade. Evade's a
yeah,
preemptive repair.
sure.
So it's
Yeah, and you're spending the token, and lots of times those are tied into your captain skill or
yeah.
those are usually finite resources in many situations too, whereas an evade is not. So
Good point. Yeah. So number 6, I went with the straight up mirror USS Enterprise D. Ooh, I see your ship. We can talk about it there, but for
fair enough.
me, it's a cost of disabling a shield, which may be the difference between me living and dying, to get an extra attack die. Now, an extra attack die to get up to a 6th die is definitely not bad, but this ship doesn't have that tech slot, and
Mhm.
now tech is not quite as important in the mirror universe, but even then, 2 crew, 3 weapon, it's just not a great slot loadout for any ship. And yeah, that being said, there are some nice crew combos in Mirror Universe. You can do some fun stuff, but all the fun ways you have to get extra shields just don't really exist in Mirror, or you're paying a
Yeah.
premium on them, and they tend to be tech focused. Systems upgrade being one of the few ways around that. But even then, I have a hard time working with this ship.
Yeah, this is the next one on my list.
Okay.
So, I mean, I pretty much agree with you there. There are some options. You could, I guess, put Smiley O'Brien on there for a tech slot, or Jennifer Cisco, but it's coming in with one less shield. You gotta, disable the shield to get that +1 attack die. There's just so many ways to buff your offensive firepower in the game now without having to disable the shield.
Right.
And I just feel like 3 weapon slots are really overkill. I don't. I mean, Mirror Universe doesn't have a ton of great weapons, and obviously you can cross faction here, but the places where I want 3 weapon slots would be like in Federation, where I can run Type 10 phasers, and this can't.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, just the slot loadout and stuff in the ability are not fantastic. Um, Going to Simulation Target Prime again, I guess maybe it's a little bit of bias with the Borg. I mean, not having a cross faction penalty is nice. The discount on tech is nice, but there's only one tech slot, so now you have to again consider generating more tech slots and stuff to really take advantage of that. I just felt the ability is kind of pedestrian for again the enhanced cost of the card. So
I I understand what you're saying. Obviously, it goes a little higher on my list, not way higher,
sure.
but it does go higher. So I'll talk about that when I get to it.
Fair enough.
All right. Next up for me, I put the Venture
Hmm.
in my number 5 slot, and it's not that I have anything against the Venture. Don't get me wrong. It's that uh, the Venture doesn't do well if your opponent is really smart with how to pick off ships. So you leave the Venture for last, and you've completely negated the ability. Uh,
Sure.
and if you can have any kind of movement control, and you can isolate the Venture in any way, you've basically negated the ability of the Venture. That being said, I consider my top 5, which this is now in the top 5, solid ships that I will
Sure.
happily run as far as the galaxies are concerned. And since 2 of my remaining ships are Enterprise D, I consider this the 4th best galaxy named ship that I could actually put in a fleet. So I do like it. And you know what? For me, 2 weapon slots on a Galaxy class ship now with the cool stuff Fed have, I'm willing to go for that.
Yeah. This one's next up on my list,
Well, there we
and I
go.
guess I'll save my thoughts for that in a minute. But I generally agree with you that the ability is kind of limiting. I already kind of gave you my thoughts on the Mirror D. Just there's just too many downsides to make it really useful.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, we know what your number four is.
Uh-huh.
My number four was your number six.
Yep.
So it kind of feels like we've basically lined up, except I haven't used my Galaxy 360 yet. Our number eights are different and have yet to be seen on the other one's list. So for me, I call it the ATP faction mixer. Neither Mirror nor Borg are amazing on their own. Borg suffer from being rather expensive. Mirror kind of suffer from a lack of identity. But something about being able to run these two together feels like they're better than the sum of their parts. And yes, I'm totally with you that uh, you got to work to get more tech on this ship. But you can. And the nice thing is, not having a faction penalty means you can run those Fed upgrades you want to run that kind of naturally give you more tech. Throwing a systems upgrade on here doesn't really hurt. Bringing Sakona in for extra weapon slots can potentially be a viable choice if you want it to be. And as we've alluded to, the Galaxy is a class of ships that needs some way to get more firing because a front 90 and rear 90, if you can take advantage of it, with the terrible turns on a Galaxy ship, they really need a 360 fire weapon if you can help it.
Definitely. And Sakona's a great point. I mean, for 2 points to get that discount, or throw Quark on there to hide a higher cost. And I guess with the lack of faction penalty, Quark can take pretty much any 5 point tech or weapon and put it on there, which is really nice. So
Yeah. I don't always like going back to those crutches, but when this ATP actually does enable those things to happen, those cards to work and work without a handcuff at all, it's like, oh, I can really do a lot here. So that's why it moves up for me, and it's
sure.
not saying anything below it's bad. It's just, oh, hey, this is kind of cool that I can play around with it, and more so, I think I want to see what it can really do in mission play, which is something I'm going to be exploring more here in the next few months. But this is something that actually gets me excited if I get to run a mirror ship or a Borg ship without 360 fire. This is going to be one of the first ships I look at.
Sure. Well, I have a venture here, and I mean, I agree with you. I love passive abilities because I don't have to do anything
Mm-hmm.
to take advantage of them, but I don't like having to rely upon another ship to make them work, and that's kind of a bummer here. I do like the fact that it has two weapon slots. I feel like the release of Ships of the Line has, maybe boosted its viability a little bit because it's a natural fit for Type 10 phasers. And then if you can get that boost from another ship, you're looking at 6 dice and some built-in quality there.
Yeah.
But you're really relying upon the rest of your fleet to do a good job, and your opponent maybe to play into that a little bit. And I don't like taking that control away from me as a player to use an ability. So
Yeah. That being said, so if you're playing some massive game, a recreation of Sacrifice of Angels type scenario, Deep Space Nine, throw 500 points on the board, I couldn't
sure.
ever see playing that without the Venture. That's like a
Yeah,
must bring named ship.
yeah, totally. If you were into a big battle or something like that, venture, maybe a couple, maybe that's where you put your other generic galaxies in there with a Galaxy Wing Squadron, Elite Talent, or something, and
Yeah.
just have some fun with it.
I mean, that would be crazy and probably take the better part of a day to play, but would still be fun.
Yeah, it would take a little while. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, we are up to the top three. And hey, we swapped our number eights and number threes.
We did. Yeah.
Oh, hey, that's fun. That means our top two are at least the same two. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I'll throw this here. I guess I'm nostalgic in my pick here, and just going back to how ubiquitous and useful this named ability was back in the 2013-2014 days. And I know it's 2023, and I got to make a ranking with where it is right now. And everything you've said is absolutely correct. And after hearing your arguments, what I should probably do is move it, more down about here. But
No, no, no.
but I do like the named ability still. And I think being able to make that fire and not have to bring any extra points devoted to those weapons can help, because sometimes you don't have the points to spread out in your fleet, and you just got to make the choices of where am I going to run stuff. And if you can say, hey, well, the Enterprise D is going to have that 3-die 360 fire, I can at least live with that. It's not the best, but at least I'm not paying a ton for it. Yeah, the lack of a tech slot really does hurt the ship, and I'm glad they rectified that with other Enterprise D named ships, as we've seen and as we will see. But this is kind of representative of like a season one next gen Enterprise D, and I'm I may be overvaluing it, but I also still think there's a little bit of use left in the old gal.
No, I mean, I do like it. I will say one additional benefit to the ability, which I didn't mention before, but WizKids had a ruling that this attack, the 360 attack, does take a range bonus. So at range one, you are rolling 4 dice. That's not something you get with dorsal phaser array.
Right.
And there's also, I think, a extension of that argument to be made that with Type 10 phasers, maybe it should also get that +1 ability from Type 10. So if you want a 360 ability, this is actually probably a better than average one anyway. So, um, but I'm going to get in my soapbox here for this version of the D a little bit.
I am happy to
Um,
hear it.
so number one, again, it's got the 2 weapon slots, so you still do Type 10. As you can see, I'm a big fan of Type 10, but it's got the tech slot, which is nice. Um, what I like about this ability is there are some newer cards that play around with your tokens, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
Vorik, you have the Tal Shiar Scout, you have Eldar Jarek from the super expensive Romulan faction pack, where he can choose your action for you, those kinds of things. So there's a bit of a counter there where you can kind of play a little bit of a counter measures game with your opponent. You
Yeah.
drop a scan token against Vorik, and now he can't steal that from you. But then you can convert it while you're rolling your dice, that kind of thing. But there's also so many cards that get you free tokens, or as a side effect of their ability, you can use a different token, and to convert that to what you want later, to really that battle station token, I think is really useful. One thing that I am kind of been playing with, and I have a build I've been working on that uses this ship, has Solak as the captain, has Alyssa Ogawa as the crew, and it has the new Klingon helmsman from Alliance 2 as the other crew. So you get some additional movement, because that Klingon crew, you can disable them to do a one maneuver. Then you can hit Ogawa to undisable the Klingon crewman, get a scan. The scan activates Solak, so you can look at your opponent's ability and then do a free sensor echo, and you can convert that scan into a battle station. So it kind of, it makes it fun for me. So I think there's a lot of neat little things you can potentially play with here, if you're willing to kind of take a look at spend some time on Utopia, and kind of play around. So that's why I have it here a little bit higher. I think it's just a fun card to play with, and maybe a little bit unutilized right now, but has some potential.
No, it sounds interesting to me. I'm excited to hear the blog post or read the blog post that you toss up there, and see that build, and maybe a little bit more of what comes out. So I do like token shenanigans. Don't get me wrong; those are fun.
As long as it's not against you, it can be a lot of
Oh
fun.
yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, I have we did a store championship, and Aladar Jarok came out against me, and I was like, well, there goes my day.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Number two. Oh,
Oh, okay.
okay.
Close.
Close, but different. Yeah. So, well, with that, we can also bring the number
Yep.
ones in. So, um, And this was my like, okay, it's almost a coin flip to me.
Mhm.
They're very different, but they're very they feel like they do similar effects. And I think the only thing that knocked the Odyssey down for me is that it's a free action, meaning you have to be able to perform the action.
Sure.
Um, Now, I know that it helps other ships, and that's a great benefit. And believe me, all kinds of Federation ships and non-Federation ships, or sorry, it's Fed only. Yeah, Fed ships need more dice, and they can benefit from this. But you still have to have the battle station either token to spin to actually get to the evades, or some other convert to then turn a defensive battle station into an evade. Now, I
Sure.
know there's plenty of Fed crew that can do that, and we can make the combos happen, and that's great, but there are limits there.
Yeah.
So that's why the Odyssey fell down just a touch for me.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this was a hard choice, and I feel almost like a lesser Trek fan for putting the Enterprise second in a list of the best Galaxy class ships.
I'm sure they'll make
Um,
another one.
yeah, there's probably some precedent for them to make another one here down the road. And again, like I said, I love passive abilities. I love abilities that you can trigger more than once. I mean, every time you defend, you get one less attack die. It's got all the slots that I want. You know, it's got the tech, it's got a weapon, the three crew. I mean, Fed have some great crew, have some great ways to combo those crew together if you have three slots. I just felt like kind of like you. There's the Odyssey ability is just it's it's limited to a certain kind of fleet, understandably, but I think in that setting it can be really really good, and it's a great base for I think a um, really useful support ship. Um, you know, for it's a free action. You can buff, you know, your Defiance, your new Saber class,
Mm,
your Mirandas if you want to do that, and you know if you put say a six Picard six on there with Esri as your not Picard six Picard eight hands out battle station tokens like candy. Now you have a buff to defense. Everyone gets an extra battle station to use that defense and that conversion, and then you still have four dice to hit your opponent with. It's a pretty solid support ship, and it doesn't cost a ton. You can build a fleet around it. So I think it's a it's a very specific type of deck, but I think for what the Galaxy classes can do, this ability just really offers a lot to the rest of your fleet.
no, it does. And so ultimately, it comes down to, of these two, which fleet are you trying to build?
Sure.
Are you trying to build a overall survival fleet? Do you need the support ship? The Odyssey's going to play that role. Are you trying to build, I need this ship to survive? That's where the D is going to come in.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's it's kind of two sides of a coin, and you got to make the choice. And I don't think there's a wrong way to go. Good choices, though. I mean, it says something that these two very much. I think there really is a bit of a divide that says, yeah, these are the top two, well and clear away. You can make an argument that, I think you'd probably make an argument that the token shenanigan D is maybe up there. I would not make an argument that the 360 Enterprise D is up there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think there is definitely the token D is fun, but again, it's much more. You have to build a specific type of combo around it. Again, the Odyssey. If you just want one ship and you want it just to fly around and try to wreck your opponent, you can build some really nice builds off the Enterprise D with that defense ability. And you don't have to worry about what the rest of your fleet's doing. So there is something to be said for that. But they're both Odyssey and Enterprise D from the 2017 are just two very good ships and ones I would definitely consider. And I almost always consider, when I'm making a Fed build to use those. So
Yeah. I know personally I have run several fleets with this Enterprise D and a Sutherland and just
hmm
had those two and said, okay, yeah, go ahead, try to kill me. And that's the start of it, of course. There's a whole lot more that goes in, but yeah, you put that out and you go, okay, hey, I got two ships. And if you get one of them, okay, good luck trying to kill the other one.
yeah, exactly. And those three crew slots, you can do a lot with that. You can add your abilities to get some additional maneuvers, or you can put Kona on there and add some crazy weapons and make it look like the Enterprise D that we all know and love from the show that has that firepower. And
Mm-hmm.
it is very flexible. It's a very flexible build, and it's a very simple but very useful ability.
The the theme that's striking me for Galaxies is kind of why'd they waste such amazing named abilities on such a bad space frame?
I mean, just frustrating in general. I mean, there are more than a few folks. I know there are a few folks in the Fremont League that have the hashtag Justice for Galaxy campaign that they bring up every now and again. Um, it's Yeah, it really is kind of disappointing that you have what is effectively the hero ship for the entire game, arguably, is just kind of below par.
Yeah.
And there's unfortunately not really much you can do to change that at this point. Um, but it is what it is. I kind of think of it as the Galaxy was a ship from a very specific period in Federation history when they didn't need a fast combat heavy starship. Um, and that's kind of reflected in how it's played in the game, I feel like. So
Yeah. And looking at all of these Galaxy class ships, it also tells me we still need ships like the Yamato,
yep.
the Syracuse. There's a lot more named galaxies that we can get. We need the USS Galaxy, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I would love to have a prototype Galaxy. I think it's funny that the USS Venture came with Donald Varley as the captain, who was captain of the Yamato,
Yeah.
but we don't have a Yamato. Um, yeah, I say US have like a USS Syracuse and have some sort of ability where um, you can turn it into the Enterprise D or something. Maybe it's like a double card. You can flip it over.
Mm,
If this card's destroyed, turn it over. Now it's the Enterprise Enterprise D. I don't know, but yeah, I think we need some more representation, and hopefully with maybe if they do a Picard faction pack, we'll get some sort of super revamped Enterprise D that has white turns and can fire 180 or something. I don't know, but
that would be great.
um,
It would have to be a
I would
Galaxy
look forward to
refit,
having some more. Yeah,
but yeah. All right. Any last thoughts on the Galaxy class?
I love it, even though it's not the greatest. It still is the icon of much of my childhood. So um, very happy to see it when does get played.
Mm, good point. Well said. All right. That is it for this ranking, but never fear, we will have more. So until next time, keep brushing up your game.